Yakuza 3, man. I've been wanting to play this game for a while because it is the first like PlayStation 3 version of Yakuza. There's like a change in perspective. It goes from, above, sky camera in Yakuza 1 and 2 down to like behind the back camera in Yakuza 3. And I played the PS4 version of it, I should know as well, because I'm not playing the original PS3 release for this. So it has, I believe, all the content in there except for they cut one quest line because I think it had something to do with like drag or something, and it wasn't portrayed in like the best light. So I think they just removed it rather than leave it in the game kind of thing. But anyways, so Yakuza 3, maybe my favorite Yakuza game at this point. I don't think it's the best Yakuza game. So what's really interesting about Yakuza 3 specifically is that, it's basically kind of after everything that happened to Kiryu, and he's kind of just like, I'm done. I'm out of the Yakuza. I'm gone. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go move to Okinawa and start an orphanage and just raise a bunch of children there. And so the first like half of this game is like you just being an orphanage dad and like solving your children's problems. And like, yeah, it's not like, Shenmue where they're like no combat whatsoever for like the majority of the game. They still have the punks that are on the street they gotta go beat up and stuff. It's still very, there's a Yakuza on the actual island in Okinawa, and they start getting ruffled, by you being there and stuff like that. So they give you reasons to fight and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the story points and things like that, most of it is pretty chill, pretty straightforward. Even the Yakuza you're dealing with are like fairly small, small time Yakuza people. Like it's a small family kind of thing, which is kind of nice. There's kind of 3 central characters that they really kind of detail in that family. And I think they're all very likable characters is one really nice thing about it. It just feels very chill for the most part. And I think like if that was just like an intro tutorial chapter or something like that, people probably wouldn't have minded as much. But I think it's like the first 5 chapters of the game you spend in Okinawa, and like throughout that experience, as you're fighting the Yakuza and things like that, it's a lot of just like, hey, one of the kids at the orphanage is getting bullied or whatever. And it's like, okay, let me go solve that problem. Hey, this other kid had this problem happen. Okay, like somebody had their money stolen. Okay, let's go like have a family talk and talk about these like this problem that we have and how we can resolve it. Things like that. Let's go. There's a dog that ran away, and we like one of the girls like had a dog that died, and she desperately wants to have another dog again. Stuff like that. And well, like I can totally. It's definitely like very low stakes stuff. But I find it really enjoyable because, like, I feel like it's pretty rare that games ever really let you kind of explore, the kind of what happens after kind of thing in a lot of the story stuff. It's almost always just like, fast, final boss fight. And then, when the sequel starts next time, you have a very brief introduction chapter, then you're right back into evil thing happening. But like Yakuza just takes its time of just like, let's just explore Kiryu's life for a little bit. And I kind of appreciate that, or just like this kind of slow living life. And then they like kind of mix some mini games in there as well. You can do fishing, you can go golfing. Like one thing that was nice about the golfing in the story part of the game is just like you're just sitting there like talking to this guy on your golf trip or whatever, or your golf game. And so it's like kind of nice, like, again, fairly simple conversations about like, let's talk about the kids of today. Like, what challenges do they have? You're raising a bunch of kids in an orphanage. It must be hard, like all these kids want to play video games all the time these days, things like that. It's just like really chill and nice stuff. And then so like halfway through the game, they have to amp it up, and it gets, bigger and bigger. And then you get into like, going back to Kamurocho and getting involved with the Tojo clan again, which is like Kiryu's clan that you kind of mainly are interacting with in Yakuza 1 and 2. And like a bunch of stuff happens, and like by the time you get to the end of all that stuff, it's definitely like good Yakuza content. Like everything you want beat by beat is there once you get into that second part of the game, but all of it feels almost like unnecessary. It's kind of like, why is Kiryu here again? What does this matter? and I think I really struggle to find meaning in the second half of the game, honestly. Like they they do some interesting things with it, like because the game's set in Okinawa, you know, America's involved in like a really interesting or maybe like more intense way than they were in the previous 2 games. That means they also bring in some English voice acting. One thing I do really appreciate is that the Japanese voice actor does do like his actual English voice acting, and then the for the actual like you know, American dude or whatever, they bring in somebody who's like an actual English voice actor and have that. So you have like this contrast between like, you know, this kind of bad English kind of thing, not bad, but, you know, accented English kind of thing. And then you have the other person that's speaking, you know, pretty good English for the most part. There's some weird like line reads on certain things. Not really line reads, it's more like the wording, I think. And, you know, depending on the voice acting, you know, or how they do voice acting, you know, sometimes the voice actors have more control of that over others. Sometimes they are very like committed to, you're going to say this line as our Japanese company has approved kind of thing, right? But yeah, overall though, it's like kind of just more Yakuza, but the pacing is different. And I think that's like what really stands out to me. So like I look at Yakuza 3 and I'm like, Yakuza 3 is a completely unnecessary game in the series. And then, you know, how much that matters for later games, because it goes up to Yakuza 6 with Kiryu, right? And then Yakuza 7, they change protagonists. Like, I don't know. But in the case of Yakuza 3 specifically, it feels unnecessary, but the perspective that they show it to you, at least for the first half of the game, is really interesting. And I think if you do care about Yakuza 1 and Yakuza 2, and you care about Kiryu as a character, there are things to get and learn about Kiryu in Yakuza 3. You know, his handling of children, how he you know, goes and deals with their conflicts and things like that. And you get like those kind of cute moments, you know, where he's, you know, having a little, you know, scene with these kids and you know, building an orphanage, you know, a orphan family, and because he himself is an orphan as well, right? And so like, and how he uses that to, you know, kind of relate to them and things like that. I think there's a lot of value in that for exploring Kiryu as a character. It's just the actual Yakuza stuff that happens. It's just like, I guess this could be happening. This is a reason for me to go punch guys, I guess. So yeah. But like combat wise, I don't really feel like there was anything too particularly unique about it. I could be wrong, but I think one of the new things in this game, again, it's been a while since I played Yakuza 2, is that like when a character gets like low enough on health, you get like the ability to charge up like a rage meter, which you can use to like do special moves, which is in the previous games. But like you can sit there and like press the R2 trigger during these special scenes to essentially charge up and do like a finisher, I guess is what it's called. And you start with one that's like kind of the headbutt or whatever, and you kick them on the like off the floor, and then you headbutt them when they get up or something like that. And I think you learned those from like watching DVDs in the game by going to the DVD store and things like that. I did not ever get another one of those. I never went to the DVD store outside of the story scenes for what was needed. So, you know, I basically just stuck with the head splitter or whatever it was called through the entire game. Which, I mean, the game's not hard, so like you can get through it without too much trouble either way. But that was one of the things that like I was like, I probably should have gone and looked at like a DVD at some point and gotten more of these special moves, because for now I just have the one, essentially. So inventory space, I think, is something that I really would like to see done away with as well in that series. I don't know if they eventually did, but I was not a fan of like having to manage my inventory that much. I just kind of want to, you know, you already have limitations on what you can bring into combat with you. So like my feeling would be, okay, have like a weapon slot, have like a healing item slot, and just kind of leave it at that. Armor slot as well. I forgot there's armor slots. And then like the rest for all your other items, just let it go in a giant inventory. Who cares, kind of thing. So, but you know, this is a game from like what, 2008 or something like that. So, you know, design sensibilities were quite a bit different back then and things like that. So I'm not really excited to play more Yakuza games, to be honest, after playing Yakuza 3. Like, again, I really like what Yakuza 3 did, but it feels like it was just like a really good execution of something that probably shouldn't have existed. But with working with what they had, it makes a lot of sense why they made the game they did, and I think it was pretty good because of that. But like, it makes me really question, like, what do I want out of a Yakuza 4? What do I want out of Yakuza 5? Because like the actual Yakuza part of those games, or part of 3 at least, is just kind of like, I don't really know. Nothing of this feels like necessary.